Originally, way back when I first got on the ship, I slept back here. Number
That
37.
was wide.
Number 35, what does that say?
35. After Siemens after 35.
Yeah.
After Siemens mess deck.
Well, our mess deck was up here, so there's a little bit different. Now our ship was shallower than this. We slept here and here. And below that was only a deck about this wide. No, excuse me. We slept here and we had this ammunition locker here, which I was in charge of. And below that was a deck about not much higher than this. I actually had to go down and crawl in there. We had all the gas masks and all the odd equipment down there. And right up in here we had a thing that turned on, because we had, what's 38 there and 30?
38.
This and this one.
38 and 36 would be 36 is Y magazine and
Yeah.
X magazine.
That's what I mean. I had in charge of those magazines, and I used to test them. Right up in here, I used to test the sprinkler there. And one day I didn't turn it on right, and I sprayed salt water down in there. Shit, I spent a week cleaning up salt water.
We took off from Guantanamo Bay, and I didn't see you because you were dead sick in your bunk. And I slept forward, and there was only 2 racks up there.
You know what that was? You know what that was? I had the shot of penicillin in Boston.
And you were sick.
Yeah, I had
Right.
a shot of. I got a shot of penicillin.
That was from Guantanamo Bay going.
No, it was from Boston. Yeah.
I got on board in Guantanamo Bay.
But I wasn't sick then.
Yes, you were.
No.
Yeah.
Now you're. Anyway, let's go back to this. They had a sprinkler system up here, and I tested it one day. I didn't test it for these 2 magazines, but the one underneath here,
Oh my.
I bummed that wrong, and I filled that. I put about 3 inches of salt water down there before I shut it off right. I went out and swap it all out. Right under this magazine here, this is from here back. Right under this magazine was a big diesel magazine, diesel fuel, and they filled it up so full that this hatcher sprouted, and they filled it up with about 2 inches. Jerry! Jerry? Jerome? I went to the bathroom. Anyway, there was this magazine down here. Remember the first lieutenant when we fought that Bath magazine?
Siri?
No. Siri was a ding dong. He was a chicken farmer.
Oh, the first lieutenant was kind of a husky guy. Yeah.
Anyway, we had this, in this magazine here below it was a diesel thing with a hatch on it, and they filled up with so much diesel the hatch wasn't tightened down. They put about 2 inches of diesel fuel in the bottom of this magazine. And I had another guy down there swapping it up with rags and ringing in buckets, and this first lieutenant come along. I said, Weber? What's that down there? Suji water? Suji water meant soapy water. They call it Suji water. I says, no, sir, this is diesel fuel. He goes, rah! Like I took a chicken and grabbed him by the neck. Diesel fuel, and he run up there, and the smoking lamp will be out throughout the ship, and stand by the fire party and run the hoses out and every goddamn thing. We're down there trying to clean up the diesel fuel and the ammunition. You know, if it had gone off, we wouldn't have never made it. We never got out the hatch. It would have blown us right out of the hatch.
What Mike's saying so funny, we had a bunch of Easterners on board ship there, and they'd say, hey, they come out and say, hey, Weber, want to play some cards? I said, what do you mean cards? You know, poker.
You know, it's no different, Jerry, up in the slope up there was. Tire man, come on, change some tires. And the tire man was there, and I said, are you going to change that tire? He said, you mean tires, sir? Same way. In Boston, go on park in Harvard Square, go on see the Delaware. Everything was, Kennedy, Senator Kennedy, every damn thing they said. Anyway, getting back to this was, they dumped all that diesel fuel up there. What it did, it was flushing around on the floor, and the reason he called it Suji water was that the decks were painted white, and the walls, everything was painted white, and that diesel fuel was washing the paint off the floor. And it was all white. Weber, what's that? Suji water? He talked all outside of his mouth. Suji water, sir, this is diesel fuel. Just like he grabbed a chicken and strangled it. We got up here. This is the chief's deck, and this is us. I had these I had all the magazines at that time. We were out, and it was really rough weather. We're doing 50-degree rolls in the Mediterranean, and I'm sitting here on my bunk right here. Right below is a damn magazine. I said, what the hell's all that noise down there? And I had the only key to the magazine. I opened up, looked down there, and what they did was, the projector was about this long, and they stacked 4 this way, and they turned 4 this way. And these upright stanchions that you could take out, you could reach in and pull the projectors out. When they got down to the bottom, you could take these their I-beams, you could lift them up and out and throw them down and get them out of the way and go to the next one. What happened, these I-beams were tall enough where they fit in, you fitted them like this and dropped them down. They didn't fit in high enough. And the distortion up there in this real heavy weather made them, they weren't high enough. And so they twisted and fell it up. And all this goddamn ammunition, these projectiles were rolling back and forth on the neck. About 30 of them. The ship pitched this way, they'll go down that side. So I went down and I stood on the ladder, and every time they rolled by, I'd grab one and put it up in the rack. See? And I got out on and put all this ammunition back up there and put it all back and locked the hatch up. Nobody knew the difference. Nobody ever knew it. All this goddamn live ammunition was just. There was about 30 projectors trying to beat one another to death.
You know, speaking of odd things, the funniest thing we took off from some port somewhere and went across, and there was a kid in, I don't even recall what he was kind of a young kid, but just got engaged to be married, and his wife told him he'd be circumcised before he get married. So he got circumcised just before we took off, and he got sick. And so we took off, and it wasn't bad, it was a little bit lower. And he'd lay there and moan, he'd look down there, and, oh God, he'd pull the sheet up and get sick. And the ship would roll over, and he'd lay down, and his pecker got about that bigger.
That's falling out. Well, you know what? All the guys from the East Coast.
My favorite story about when I got my double hernia operation. You know, they made the cuts right like this, and right at the base of the penis, they put the first stitch in right into my end of my penis, right where it came in.
For a hernia?
Yeah, for a double hernia operation. It was real low. See?
Oh, it was right there, yeah.
So I got up there. I was laying in bed and bandages on there, and then the second day it slipped down a little bit, and I looked down. Geez, it was about that big around, and there was a 21-year-old nurse there. And I said, nurse, come here, look at this. And she said, oh, I'll be okay, Miss Weber. I go, no, how do I keep it that way? She said, oh, damn you. She could have killed me. Oh, that was funny.
I was too shy in those days to say that.
Well, this was just...
Anyway, if you read this diagram here, this goddamn ship is so close to the ship I was on. I could walk through that ship, they could blindfold me, and I could walk through and lift this foot up and then go by that they had a big scoop thing on the deck to run the line around, and you duck down here because your head would hit. And you go like this. I still have scars on my legs. All the hatches opened up and they're all about this high off the ground. And when you went through them fast, just the last moment, you'd swing your foot out of the way. If you misjudged it by just a tad, your foot would hit that. In fact, I'm not kidding. I will show you. I still got scars.
What do you mean? Going... How do you... I mean...
You can't see them now, hardly.
I see one. There's an indentation there. Yeah.
Right there. That's how high this. See that right there? That's how high this hatches are. See that right there?
Yep.
That's the hatches. But you step through a hatch. The hatches are scooped out thing was about this high.
Oh.
And when you went through them, you stepped through and you went like this, see? And you were running. Once in a while, you'd misjudge them.
Scrape, bang.
See, oh, they hurt. Now we're up here.
Did you hit your head? Ooh.
You're always going. You knew when to duck. Well, once in a while you'd forget.
I wouldn't have had to duck.
That was really hard on you. But you know, this ship, I said to Rosemary, this ship is so identical to what I was on, I think the same guy drew it up. 51 was a boiler room on her ship. Let's see what it is here.
What class is that?
A boiler room. This is a light cruiser. But it's the same damn thing. A light cruiser, but it's no different than our ship. Number 6, pom-poms, I bet, are number 6. Forward pom-pom. See? You look at Jerry. Here's my.
Boston won 1-0.
Is that right?
Yep.
Mom.
Jerry, this isn't a damn bit different than our ship. Here's my forward gun mount. Here's a second gun mount. There's a damn pom-poms, or what you call 40 millimeter. Here's your bridge. You look at everything there, Jerry. That's identical. There ain't a damn thing different on that.
No, they got 2 gun turrets. We only
So we
had,
had one gun, but what's the difference? Everything was in the same position.
we had twin funnels. There's only one there.
I mean, pick apart the little stuff.
That's not a destroyer.
That's a light cruiser, they call it on there, but it's the same damn position. Ours is 318 feet, that's 500 and some feet, but they have the same types of things in the same position. Ours are 5 inch, those are
318 feet
5.85.
long? How many feet wide?
About 35 in the middle.
That's what I'm telling you. We only had 2 bunks forward.
No, you had, Jerry.
Mike,
Yeah, well, now
I
listen.
slept there.
I know you had bunks here and bunks here.
And that's all we had.
No, hold on, let me correct you. You had one single bunk up here, and when it got back to here, you had 2 bunks. Because what a single bunk was,
No, we were forward of the what the hell ever called it, 4v8.
you were the second one for. I was just forward the mess hall. You were on about that. So
Mike,
here's
I was forward to the mess hall, and that's all there was.
no, you were forward to me. I was the next one next to the mess hall, and you were the one up. You were in the first class. You were in the first division. I was in the second. First division had bunks on both sides. Right up here was one layer of bunks and lockers on this side, and right behind it was 2 sets of lockers, and right there was 1 set of lockers. Remember the big fat husky nigger that they caught for stealing wallets? They trapped the guy. He had a bunk right there. But in my compartment they had just like I described there. But because the bow was going up like that. But anyway, one day it was really rough out. I'm telling you, it was 40, 50 foot waves, and it was going this way and that way. And I went up in the bosun locker, which they describe here, which is right up here.
The what locker?
Bosun locker, right up here in the bow. The ship come up like this. And I didn't go down below here because that's the anchor windlass down in here. I went up in there, and this ship was going up and down. It was going left and right, and it had a twist this way, and then it quivered. And I went up and I stood in the middle, and I was doing this, and there was a mop panel there, and it went like this. When the bow went down, it went up, and it dropped back. And it went up, and it dropped back. That bow had every kind of a twisted motion you could think of. And I just stood up and I thought, this is really great. Stayed up in there, and it's going.
That's like that.
It's going up and down. It's twisting this way, and it's doing this way, and it's doing a quiver as it goes up. And
Mike,
down.
when I was on that troop ship and went through the typhoon in the Japan Sea, that's almost a 900-foot troop ship, and that thing would go up on a wave. The waves were enormously high. That thing would go up a wave like this, and it'd come to the top, and it would come right out.
Yeah.
Right on the top, and the screw would come out of the water, and the torque in the ship would just it would shudder.
That's nothing.
It would just shudder.
That went on all the time.
And then it was bobbing and pitching and going up and down all at the same time. The thing was, you'd think it was just going to come apart, and all of a sudden, then it would bite going down, and so it would slide down, and the bow would bury itself in the sea.
And when the bow went down, what it did was, the bow was shaped like this. The waves would come this way. Instead of hitting it, it hit right here and it trap air under there. It would go whoop. Would hit here, and then all the air from the pressure would go whoop. And it was doing this as it went down. It was doing this, and it was doing this all at the same time. It would go whoop. You were up there, and all you could do is stand up. And I thought I'd just stand there for 20 minutes going through that. Base your feet, and boom, whoop, boom.
Well, that storm that you're talking about when the carrier hit that destroyer.
Yeah.
We were up there on the bridge, and you could look up, and all you could see was water all over around the top.
I was on the O2 deck, which is higher than, what the ground is out there. The O2 deck was about equal to what I was standing on the roof here. And I looked up like that, and it was way straight up at a 45-degree angle. I got pictures of waves like that.
That's the way that
I'll show it to you sometime. And I leaned over to the side. The guys were down along the chow line. On the porch, I said, "Here comes a big one." And they said, "What?" And it went like this. And it dumped all the guys in the scuppers, along that side up there, just where we wanted to chow on the port side. When I come over, we whipped it this way, and Hatzadekas and 2 other guys went right into the boatswain's locker right there with all the crap. And what I was doing, I hanging on the ready box when I saw it. I said, "Here comes a big one."
When you read about storms like that, you read about the King Mutiny. If you ever read that, They finally had the mutiny.
We had the Stoddard, we had a captain that was worse than the Ken Mutiny.
Yeah, but.
Were you
the
there
point
when
is-
this ding dong was on the Stoddard?
Yeah. Stoddard?
The Stoddard, and he got everybody up at midnight, checked them to see if their shorts were stenciled.
You weren't on Stoddard.
But we were Stoddard was part of theirs on 18.
Yeah, but the Commodore was on the brain.
Yeah, but we were at Commodore, but we had the nutty captain was on the Stoddard. We had the Isherwood, and what was the fourth one? God, I can't think about it. It's like what happened yesterday. I can't think of those names. Who was it? Ingram.
Ingram.
Yeah. God, that was a long time ago.
Yeah, but we had a real screwball for that Commodore, though.
Which one? Howdy Doody or Chrome
Howdy
Doody?
Doody.
Howdy doody.
Yeah.
Tom Moyer got his name from Howdy Doody. He was a pretty sharp guy.
No,
But he was-
a dumb cluck.
No, he was sharp in some ways. But
What?
what was his nephew's name? The big, fat Jewish kid.
The only thing I recall, we were out there on some big integrated maneuvers and all these.
Whole fleet is
doing all these, and here's this torpedo man sitting back there and playing cowboys and Indians with the Commodore. Commodore had a kind of a fancy chair back there, and he was sitting back there, and this guy had a peeker in the corner. Commodore ducked back, and he yeah, playing games.
The one that the Ray got his ticket.
That little short torpedo man.
I know you mean. Anyway,
Jesus, here I'm. Yeah,
the Commodore had a
I'm not
nephew
the
on board
smartest
ship.
guy in the world, but I thought, well,
Yeah, well, the
careful.
Commodore, I think you get a little goofy being in the Navy. That's what I think. I don't care who you are, if you've been in it for 20 or 30 years. But his nephew was on board. And he was a
No,
big...
the nephew was the mess steward or
No, or
cook
medic-
or medic
some-
or
Anyways, he got along real good with the uncle until he borrowed some money off him. That was the end of it. He wouldn't talk to him or even look at him. But in the Navy, when you have coffee, you have a cup here, and you drink it down. You don't wash it because you know where to wash it. You leave it there, and you have another cup of coffee, and after a week,
After
Just
a
kind of
couple of
builds
weeks,
up a little bit.
yeah, it's
gets
pretty
kinda
kind of hot
grungy.
time. Well, this torpedo man coming along. Oh boy, he pours this big cup of coffee, puts some cream, and go get his sandwich. He's got it stashed over. It's a cruddy cup. As soon as he turns it back to get his sandwich, Commodore runs up, grabs his cup of coffee. I mean, this coffee cup is, how is it big? This is where's my sandwich? Where's my coffee? I got my sandwich. But where he got his howdy doody name was from, that we're cruising along and it's really a dull. I mean, there's nothing worse, dull.
It's howdy doody time. It's
There's
howdy-
nothing worse in the whole world than being out in the ocean.
With nothing to do.
Drudgery. I mean, it's real drudgery. The decks they blow the tubes of the decks, got soot all over them. There's salt water. Wherever you put your hand down, there's cruddy salt water that gets on in. It's rusty. The decks, you go down below, the decks are rusty, and it's as humid as you want to get it. Everything's just really shitty. I mean, you can't believe it till you've been on there. It's not really.
Just plain shitty.
No, you've been on the ocean for a couple, 3 weeks, and you're getting.
Squirrely anyhow.
You don't have a Coke machine to even pop a quarter. The coffee's lousy. The food is not that bad, but there's never anything really tasty like your mother could make.
No change. No
No change. The breakfasts are usually pretty bad because they have cream chip beef on toast, things that are not really like you cook them personally for yourself. And you got the soot all over the place and the salt water. And the ship is constantly going floop. And what I told you about that, the waves come along and they hit the ship. This part hits it, it goes whoop, and it blows air out the side. And that's going on all of it. The ship has got this wiggle from it. It's got this lurch this way and that way. And you can't walk on the deck because it's wet. And I mean, it goes on all day, every day of the week. See, and you're getting in the point where you set your feet, and it's only good for a couple of seconds. You got to reset your feet. So it's really crappy. So when any little thing comes along that's different, you appreciate it. You know what I mean? Any break. But anyway, we were out there this one day. We had a great big school of porpoise. I mean, everywhere you look, there's porpoise about this long. They don't jump in 5s or 10s. They're jumping in 30s and 40s everywhere. And as far as you can see, there must be 5,000 or 10,000 porpoise. And the Commodore's going, look at all them porpoise, look at all them porpoise. You're so damn tired of the ocean You know, it's been great for 2 weeks. It's been windy for 2 weeks. There's nothing going on. All of a sudden, you see all these damn fish out, these porpoise out there. This guy's saying, look at all that porpoise, look at all that porpoise. And then I went through with this, shooting with this guy, stealing this guy's cup of coffee, and then they all of a sudden they call him Howdy Doody. But he was sharp at maneuvers. He could look at the radar screen and say, ah, small bar, blah, blah, where the hell are you going? We pull in the port. I want to see you as soon as we get in port. And that was, we're tying up, and that guy didn't have step 1 foot in the deck, and how do you know? Where the hell were you going a while ago? And he had told the guy, we proceed to point X-ray at 21 knots and be there at this point in time. Well, he couldn't have got to point X-ray that time unless he went 35 knots. So the guy said, go 35 knots, you get there. So the Commodore was chewing him out. That went on. You know, they had people in the neighborhood that were small like people are in this world. They weren't totally technically correct. They could be jerks, just like, in a school you have a teacher that's smart, but he could be jerky once in a while. And every guy you lean over, damn you, where were you going a while ago? The cop ducked after blah.
Yeah, but he's the same idiot that chewed you out one time there on the bridge and you were on the wheel watch. And it was bad weather. I don't know if you
That was Siri, the goddamn first lieutenant.
No, that wasn't Siri.
I'll never forget that. It was Siri, yeah.
No way. Siri had more smarts than that.
No, he didn't. He was the one that said, all right, if you're going to go.
He said hard port. And Mike's up there whipping that whiz around. I thought the damn thing had come off his gears.
Then hard to starboard, what he did was, he got all these ships around, and before we're supposed to form a nucleus around this is a carrier, and this would be the battleship, and and they form a big ring around it, and we got too close up. And what Siri said was, instead of us just slowing down, we do this, and we do this, and we do this, and we do this. Because we're turning left and right, all of a sudden we're back here, because we're taking a longer path. I don't know if Siri was doing it, but somebody else is. I don't remember at that time what it was you steer point course so-and-so.
Mike, that wasn't Siri.
No, I think what you mean was steer so-and-so course. There was great big waves were coming this way, and they were doing this to the ship all the time. The wave had knocked over there, and every time he looked at the goddamn compass I was like this. And I was sure this way, but he never looked at it when it was that way. And he kept chewing me out and chewing me out. And I finally said, hey, every time you look at me, I'm this way, but come and look at me when I'm this way.
You didn't say a word. You're just cranking that wheel.
You had to crank like hell to keep it on course, what you did. If you went 40 degrees one way...
Siri was fair.
Boy, that was a long time ago, wasn't it?
Yeah. But Siri was fair. This other guy was a real jerk.
I'm trying to remember who it was. That wasn't Siri, it was the first lieutenant. God, I'd like to look at that book and look up his name. Just chewing on me, and it's all...
Dave isn't coming.
Because it's...
Well, I don't know. She's saying, "Oh, please come, please come." Dave
Who?
crying. Louise is talking to Dave. Sounds like he's coming.
But anyway, because of wave, you know what happens is the waves...
Nobody, but Susie and I have met his wife. Mom hasn't met her.
I met her.
Oh, you met her?
If you don't want to come...
I gave her hell one time for
It's probably why she won't come to your house.
No.
Nasty.
Did you guys see each other a lot?
See, Uncle Jerry was a quartermaster. He was on the bridge all the time.
So,
Can I get you
but like
some?
when,
No, I'm fine. Thank
And I steered the ship.
but did you like eat at the same time or?
Oh, yeah. I was a master arm on the ship for a long time. I had to more or less control the mess hall and the mess deck and that. That was kind of a cushy job in some ways, because I could go into the cooks and eat anytime I wanted. But I had all these jerk seamen. The cruddy end of the whole Navy was the guys that were the mess hall attendants.
No, it's so funny about that. We had some pretty good officers and pretty good jerks.
I could show you pictures of guys that just as soon as I see them, my stomach goes, ah. I got pictures of that. The ball of bunks were hung they pivoted like this, were hung on chains.
Yeah.
I had, I don't know what you think of me about, we had, what's the guy that kind of looked after the cook and the chow and all that?
The Chief
No, he was an officer.
Second Lieutenant.
Well, whatever this guy was,
No, the first lieutenant, wait a minute, I know what you mean. He had one particular officer that was in charge of the mess hall.
He was kind of a cluck, and I didn't like him. And one day I went to the chow line, and head cook there was kind of a jerk too, whoever it was. And you know, I was.
You picked an argument with him.
Yeah, he gave me a scoop of potatoes about, you know, just I was in a bad mood. I said
Okay.
something.
Your Uncle Jerry lit all over him.
Yeah.
Uncle Jerry was known to be stubborn.
And he called the officer down. The officer stuck. He said something in the paper, and I said, well, you know, I didn't say go fuck yourself or nothing, but
Something nasty.
and I got a captain's mask.
Yeah.
Yeah, big deal for a scoop of potatoes.
Yeah, but did you win that?
Yeah.
That was the funny part. The captain agreed with him. I remember right. Your Uncle Jerry, when he was in high school and college, he was on the debate team. He could argue either side with just violent. Argue violently for something. Say, all right, you're on the other side, be just as nasty the other way. Well, Uncle Jerry got on our ship because he was arguing with somebody on the other ship the same way, right?
Well,
Yosemite.
you know, the funny part of that, just about the day before I got on Mike's ship, I got arrested for being drunk and disturbed.
But
Yeah. And I had to have a couple of guys come down and bail me out. And at the same time, I just applied for flight training.
Oh, jeez.
And so these guys came down and bailed me out. And went on our way to Cuba or wherever. And
Santiago, Cuba. They pulled into Cuba. Mom wired me sent me a telegram. Jerry's on the Yosemite. By the time I got the diagram, I had to go over and pick him up and bring him back to the ship. He getting transferred.
the upshot of the story was that I'd applied for B12 or whatever they call it then. And I forget exactly how this worked, but he said, one more deal. People I don't like or don't get along with,
You weren't getting along with the first class boatswain or
no,
something.
he's a warrant officer.
Warrant officer,
Yeah.
that's what it was, yeah.
And he said, whoever, he said, you'll never get your commission. So I went aboard Mike's ship and
Sun his nose at him.
These two guys, you heard all these stories about all these exotic places they went, and all the things they did, and all the fun they had. I'm trudging up down the hills in Korea, dodging bullets. Guess who gets the most money when they got back from the legislature for separation of service pay?
Right, yeah.
We worked hard, we deserved it.
They got twice as much money as I got.
Now, we had a saying, I joined the Navy to see the world, and what did I see? I saw the sea. What it meant is, 95% of the time you're in the Navy, you're out just,
On water.
no, you know, when you go for 15 or 16 days, at 3 knots an hour, no matter where you look, it was ocean. You would go up on deck, you'd go forward or go down, or vice versa. It was just like there was a wall, and you never looked up. It was just empty
Yeah,
sea.
but there's some out there and
Tough.
they're in the mud.
Hey, well, we had it tough too, though.
Yeah,
The crappy movies. You lay there in your bunk. Gallop, 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 bang, 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 gallop, gallop. Oh, sounds good. Go in there, sit down. Shit, this is just like last time. Go back and lay there. Hear that guy. Gallop, 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 gallop. Bang, 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 bang. They'll drive me nuts. They had grade C movies.
We didn't have movies in the house.
You know what? It was torture. Shit. I had the magazines for a long time. I had to go in every magazine every day and take the temperature of them. Every magazine. Because the powder at different temperatures burns at different rates. When you're shooting at an airplane, 10 feet a second can mean a lot in leading an airplane. And every day I take them, every day, take the measurement of every magazine. Boy, if anything screwed up my magazines. They had some magazine hatches were flush with the deck, because right where I slept, right there was a magazine hatch. There's a ridge around there where it was flush with the deck and it would fill up with dirt. I'd open it, would suck in or something. Get air in and air out because the powder gives off a chemical that might explode if it gets too. But I did crank down the exhaust part of the blowers so that there's positive air pressure in the magazine. So when I lift that hash up, instead of the stuff sucking in, it would go there would blow and I wouldn't get any dirt down in there. And I had all these little soup cans with little wires on them and all these hydraulic mechanisms from one of the shells and the powder up. All that hydraulic mechanism, wherever a lever went into a hydraulic case or something, had a tendency to leak, and I had all these little cans hanging everywhere. And come time for inspection, I'd pick up all these cans and hide them in behind the powder, and when they look through, look good, look good, look good. And when they leave, I'd get all my little cans out and hang them up. But what we did is, in the magazines were all painted white, and the floor had, you know what the back of a carpeting looks like?
What?
When you turn the carpet over the backside?
Yeah.
That was both sides. We had carpeting that was both sides like that. I glued it down on the deck, and I painted it with a kind of a dark blue gray, about 4 or 5 coats. If you dropped the ammunition on it, it would just bounce on something soft. And it had a band all the way around. This side was white, and all the walls and the ceiling were white. And all the brass stuff was highly polished. For 2 years, or a year and a half, that's all I did, run from magazine to magazine and buff them up and polish them and shit. What a job. Come rain or shine, I had like 18 magazines to do. And they had maximum minimum thermometers. It's a big U-shaped thermometer. When it got cold, the mercury went this way, and they had a little metal thing in the path of the mercury, and they lifted it up, and that told you a minimum. It got hot, the mercury moved this way, and it raised up this little metal piece on this side that was minimum maximum thermometer. You could tell how cold it was or how hot it was.
Yeah.
Okay.
And after I read,
Thank you.
Boston one.
after I read the temperature, I'd take a magnet and run those two little things back down to the level of the mercury. And it was just every day I did that. Geez, what a job that
You know, I don't know what I did at night. All those time I was over there. I don't know what. I drank a little beer when I had it, but
Yeah, I went to bed early. You're like us. Then in your bunk and read and get crapped out.
I read books.
Yeah, the big event was when
They always had.
yeah.
Oh, I still do.
Well, I read what I could, but we didn't have books. I think we sat around and talked a lot and lied. You know, told each other stories. I used to stand the first watch for all the Marines because I would go crazy, you know. Telephone watch, they thought that was great. And the corpsman would go up and stand a telephone watch, and then go to 12 o'clock. And then I'd go to bed, and then I'd get up 5, 6 in the morning or whatever it was, and that's about all I had to sleep
I
anyhow.
don't know if it's clean or what it is, but it doesn't come off with any kind of cleanser or soft scrub or anything, so. And the handle's been broken for 15 years. And so we have to buy new clothes dryers. Oh, they're still limping along with that clothes dryer. Well, I nursed.
Geez, I remember one night, I had a 30 caliber machine gun going out the back. I had a
Not as well as the old one.
place where my sick bay was, just an old raggedy tent, and I had a sandbag machine gun going out because it was out the back of the hill. It was out the back. We had these bouncing Betty flares with tripwires, and if you hit a tripwire, the flare would shoot up, you know. And I'm laying in there, just about ready to go to sleep, and poof, one of those damn things, I rolled off, I grabbed the machine gun, fired like hell into the darkness, and just raked everything over. Everybody rolled out, manned all the guns, got on the phones, alerted everybody else. Nothing. Nobody ever figured out why the hell that flare went off.
He's a corpsman, there isn't hell.
I caught all kinds of hell for that too. What the hell do you expect me to do?
Well, that's you're supposed to do, wasn't it?
Well, I guess maybe it was, but I never really understood the rules around that damn place. You know? We had the old-fashioned water-cooled machine guns, you know, the heavy 30s. You know, the World War I almost with the big jackets around them and big water jacket around the barrel. Water-cooled, yeah. We had a bunch of those.
Well,
heavy old damn things, sitting on tripods.
these are before I got
They were
here.
fixed, they weren't free. They were tied down. You had to, you wanted to move, you had to fire with one hand and turn with the other.
5 days a week. You have to get your laundry done at night or on weekends.
You could. I guess you could disengage them.
Take things out of the freezer and put it in dinner. Well, your microwave is more successful than mine.
Really? You didn't like the microwave?
Well,
That was 34
it's cracked.
years ago that I was over there. 33 years ago. It seems like now. It seems like it never happened.
Well, I think
Well,
it's
that's
power. We don't
kinda
have,
my-
we don't have enough house power.
recall.
I noticed the difference.
Just something very vague and fuzzy in the past. I don't remember a whole lot about a lot of the stuff we did, but what I did with my time.
Because at work, they're high powered for industrial use.
I guess maybe my main memory of all that was all these offices that I ever been in, I thought were dumb bugs.
Probably most of them were too. Had a Marine reported me for not saluting him on the front lines. Marine officer.
Water should boil in X number of minutes.
And the next day he was gone.
I'm 2 minutes
They
long,
transferred him out of there.
boil water or something.
They ain't damn fool that knows better
Mine, I
than to
can't have
report
that.
somebody for not saluting him on the lines didn't belong up there in the first place.
But I can't convince anybody that we should update our.
That's the first thing the Chinese wanted to see.
It just keeps turning this around.
Somebody saluting somebody so they could shoot him.
Well, the trouble is, everything you've got is electric.
Yeah.
So then,
That guy's a real idiot.
your stoves and your.
And that's what Uncle Tom said earlier about
Funny
about all
Yeah,
that.
this is, well, we don't
Mike
have
and
circuit
Tom and I
breaker.
all
We
from
don't
the
have
same
switch, what do you call it, circuit breakers, we have fuses.
got the same kind of a,
But, and the
theoretically,
microwave
it's some kind of
is on
a
the
bonus
same,
coming
it's just
through.
plugged into the outlet there, with the other outlets.
Tom's the only guy that was over there getting shot at, and he didn't get the bonus.
Well, I got a bonus, but it was very small compared to yours and Mike.
Here, this is better.
Oh my, what's that?
Boy, I caught hell for that. I remember you guys really gave me the raspberry on that one.
Someplace I have hockey.
For that part of it, all that amounts to
No, hockey
is so
stick.
damn dumb what politics.
That's right. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. There's no excuse for it. None whatsoever.
The trouble with doing all the things we did, done all through our life, there, you never paid enough money to make us really enjoy it.
No, I don't know about that, Mike. I have no regrets. Shoot,
He's only 10 or 11.
I don't know, I look back and working in South Dakota, we just worked sweat for nothing.
What he does,
It was a lot of fun. The Navy was, a lot of,
they call him,
did a whole lot of things that you'd never done otherwise.
he goes to work,
No
he
way.
gets on a train, and he goes to
You you got involved in all kinds of things, took on all kinds of responsibilities that were never even delegated, you just did them.
If they go right there, it takes them
We brought it,
the best thing is to meet people and see what dumb fucks are in the world.
we were on the ocean one time, really bad waves coming along, and we had what they call ready boxes, were boxes that were welded to the deck, and they had these cartridges about this big around that long with black powder in them for the depth charges. It was just like a shotgun shell, but shorter and lighter out of brass, and they had these big chunks of black powder in them, and you throw them in this magazine, and the firing pin hit it just like in a regular rifle shell, and set them off. And the waves had knocked this damn big thing loose, and it was washing around in a fantail. And every time we run along the edge of the ship had about that far from the edge, had a little thing welded all around it, and the water collected against it and run over and down the scuppers and over the side. It went just run right over the side and
What are
stayed.
scuppers?
The scuppers is a thing where the water run over the side. It was like a rain gutter going off your house. But what it did was on the end here, it just run out and down, and instead of the water just running over anywhere, running down, staining it, it all, then about this side, run down there and collecting the scuppers and run off. Well, it knocked this ready box loose and was banging around down there, and they had 3 lines here, here, and here.
when he's at home.
They put a net between the deck on these scuppers, they had holes through there. They put a net about this high between that and the second lifeline and the third and the second lifeline, so that there was a netting all around so the rough weather wouldn't get washed over. Well, this damn ready box bound around there tore all that loose everywhere. And 4 of us went down there to get a hold of it. And the deck, on the deck, was in the back was a hatch going down below, and the hatch stuck out of the deck level about this high, and it was about the size of this thing, this table here, and it stuck up about this high. And the pipe running around it, so when he raises up, you can swing the pipe over, and you can hang your canvas over it.
12 churches.
For rainy weather in that well.
And he can tell you about the restaurants.
It was real rough running this ready box with all this ammunition was just bouncing around. And everything. 4 of us went down there, and we went over there, and I got a hold of this ready box. And the ship was doing this and this, and I was hanging on to this hatch, which was a little bit higher than this in the ready box. And 3 of the guys were there. The one guy was a mess cook, this ding dong that didn't have a set of brains in his head. This great big wave come over, tipped the ship like this, and the 2 guys who were outboard of it, they let go and they walked over, and they were laying over the side of the ship, and they're hanging on this scuppers thing like this. Because all that net had washed loose, there was nothing to stop it. They were just like this. The ship tipped like this, and I'm hanging on this big heavy ready box, and this mess cook, he's just hanging on to this hatch for dear life. He wasn't going to let go of that. To hell with them guys down there and everything else. And the ship leveled off, and then it was just like it took to push the ship under the water, because here come about a 3-foot wall of water. The whole rear end went under the water, and it come flowing across. They still hung it in that damn ready box, and by that time, them 2 guys that was hanging on the scuff, they had scrambled back on board the ship and come running over and hung onto the ready box. Them hanging onto everybody and the ready box too. And you know, when you're in a situation like that, you don't let go. We finally ended up tying this ready box. It was laying flat. We tied it around that hatch and went back up, and nobody ever said boo, thanks, or nothing. It was just because we were back on the old one deck when it happened, we all went down it and did it. And the whole world, it could have saved the whole world and nobody knew it. And that's what life is all about. But, no, but I mean, you could have been saving the whole world. It wouldn't have made any difference if you saved the ship or the ready box or the 2 guys' lives hanging over the side like this. Because I'd have let go of it, but I went right down, knocked them overboard.
We had a Marine who was in communications, and we had a jury-rigged shower. We had an old barrel up there with a water in it overhead and a little water can spout type thing, and he was under that thing taking a shower, and they damn Chinese blew up the communications junction out in front of our hill for all the communications lines.
How'd they find it?
Oh, they just hit it accidentally. They were shelling us, and they just blew it up, and someone hollered, "Hey, sheller, get your ass out here. You got any communications?" So he wraps a towel around his waist. He's got 2 thongs on his feet, grabs a pair of TLs and a helmet. He goes shuffling out in the middle of nowhere. He grabs all these damn lines. He starts splicing lines. Shells are going off around him. He's grumbling because he interfered with his shower. Gets it all fixed, shuffles back, goes around the back of the hill, finishes his shower.
And then nobody could have cared less, you know what I mean? You do things in life that you look back and say, gee, that was really a lot of, big deal. And nobody cared. They didn't even know we were down there. The only way they would have known they're down there if the guys got washed over by the big guys.
Geez, what happened to Mike Weber? Oh, that last
No,
one.
it wouldn't have been me. I could hang on good. No way, I'd have been the last guy over. But the fact that them 2 guys were hanging over the side of the ship and I was hanging on the ready box, all I had to do was let go and the ready box would have gone right down and cut them right up. This ding dong, the fighter really got me this ding dong mess. Mr. Dimwitty, Ace Spades, you know whatever you want to say.
Some of the dumbest guys I ever met were Marines.
No, we had Navy guys. We had one guy, we call him Dr. Pepper. And all he ever did, every time he looked at him, he had a Dr. Pepper in his hand. He was sort of like Bruce a little bit. You know what I mean? But no, wait, he had this kind of always happy with everything. You know what I mean? But never looked like he was really determined going somewhere. But every time I looked at him, he had a Dr. Pepper in his hand, and when he had Dr. Pepper in him, he was happy. We call him Dr. Pepper because that's all. He always, whenever he looked at him, he looked happy if he had a Dr. Pepper in his hand. And that's why this kid was this mess cook. He was good enough to be a mess cook, but he would have never done anything in his life that was any better than that. But at that time, we needed him, and he wasn't there. He wasn't hanging around.
When I was in boot camp, I never had a demerit for anything. It was just a piece of cake. Hell, it was easy to get all the stuff done. They got all the good marks and all the tests, and never had any problems.
Would have been a mumble thinking, right?
One morning at inspection, the officer came by and you know, you hung your towel over the end of your bunk. He picked up my towel and there was a big footprint right on my towel. So I got 100 demerits or what the hell ever it was for having a dirty towel. Those turkeys, you know, somebody took my towel and stepped on it and deliberately did it, you know, just to get me in trouble. I never did figure out who did it, but you know, the room was full of such idiots. It could have been any one of 50 of people. You know. Never could figure those people out.
The Navy was full of that kind of, we were in 2 hurricanes in Rhode Island in 11 days. We're on the dock and the wind's blowing 120 miles an hour, and we had this great big gangway that we originally put up on the ship. Took 6 of us to get it up and lift it up and set it down there. When the wind started blowing, we set it down on the dock. We pushed it down near the end of the dock, and the dock has 12 by 12s going all around it above the planks. And this gangway was only about 8 inches deep, and 2 by 4 railings on it. And I'm standing next to it, and the wind caught it and blew it over the side of the dock. That's how high the wind was blowing. I looked this way and looked back, and it was going like this. But the wind was blowing so hard, the ship was tied to the ballards on the dock. It was blowing so hard, it was pulling the ballards right out of the dock, like you'd pull a great big long tooth. Cool. So I said, run the lines from the ballard now. The lines from the ship will go down the ballard. You run the lines from the ballard dock and over and under the dock and around the pilings. We did that and it worked. I got pictures of it showing it. When we ended up, here was the lines coming down the ballard, and the ballard's way up this high above the dock, and the lines would go from